This is Group 1's industrial analysis about the computer hardware industry.
The computer hardware industry deals with the actual physical parts of the computer, and this is a broad area. It actually has to deal with computer mice to data servers and everything in between. The history really starts at the Asimov Berry computer, which is one of the first computers to actually use processing power, and this was aided by vacuum tubes. Then this changed with the transistor, which was a leap in the computer hardware industry, and this actually started to aid computer sizes, because before they were about the size of a room in a house. Smaller computers made it in 1974 due to this technology, and this was actually aided more by Intel's 8080 microprocessor, which actually made them even smaller. And this giant leap over here led to the Altair 8800 kit, which was the first do-it-yourself computer. In '75, IMB made the world standard on computers, truly. And next year, Apple tried to follow up with the Apple I. It wasn't that good, but the Apple II came out a little while afterwards and actually gave them a cult following. It was actually a pretty decent computer for the time. From the 1980s, hardware pieces were upgraded at a fast rate, and this actually led to the one of the first ancestors of the laptop, the Osborne 1. And from here on out to the 90s, this was more of a this era truly began with hardware processing, working with software to give a better computer experience. From the 90s, Intel and AMD were the biggest processor companies right now, and they had a race from here even to the 2000s. And in the early 2000s, this is where dual and quad cores would come into play, and this helped out the computer tremendously with processing power. The 32-bit system of the 90s was replaced with a 64-bit of the new era, and this kind of stagnated until 2010. This is where multi-touch screens were implemented, and this is seen in tablets and smart computers. In late 2013, processors became cheap enough to create their first generation of smartwatches, and this actually started wearable computing. Growth factors really depend on the availability of the hardware products, because that way if more computers are available, the sales trends are going to grow. The replacing of older hardware is another factor, because computers do die out and they need replacing, especially in businesses. Technological advances such as better processing power, more RAM, better motherboards actually does lead up towards this. Government regulations is mostly led by the FCC and other environmental companies due to the containment of mercury in some pieces of hardware. And actually, some companies do this, such as Microsoft and HP. Like, you can send in your mercury products and they'll dispose of them. And other parts, such as computers, have to follow regulations for like radios, because if they're too close to a radio, then they could mess up. So, in leading business and industry, as of 2013, is Hewlett Packard, or HP. And even though they're not big on the mobile industry, they're huge on the computer industry. They did 200 data centers globally as of 2013, and this is aided by 400,000 servers and millions of IP addresses. And as well as 1 in 3 servers in the world is a HP server.
The size of the industry has grown exponentially. In 2012, the shipment of tablets in the U.S. was 34.2 million, and it's predicted to expand to 71.6 million by the year 2018. In 2011, the global market had revenues of 32 billion, and revenues are expected to be 181.5 billion by the year 2018. Also, revenues are expected to increase 29% in a year-over-year average, which just means the rate from the previous year from where they were in the previous year to where they are now. The sales for the 2011-2012 year were smartphones, seen here in the blue, 30%, tablets with the most and 51%, and a portable desktop PC here with 19%. That was the year-over-year rate for the 2011-2012 year, meaning that those were what had the highest growth, and as you can see from this chart, the tablets had the highest growth. In 2013, the sales of tablets are expected to grow by almost 70%, with 202 million sales by the end of the fourth quarter. As we all know, products can have seasonality. Companies are susceptible to the seasonality because they have short-term market conditions, also known as the cyclical business conditions. The demand for the product is also more prominent in countries such as America and European markets because we are of a higher income bracket. Emerging markets are also less apt to be seasonal because they have such a high growth rate and expansion rate with their industry that seasonality doesn't really affect them. However, there is sensitivity to economic fluctuations. In 2009, we hit a recession. We're still going on in the recession, and the major players for this market actually increased their sales of laptops, but their desktop sales decreased. An example of this is the company Apple. They amplified their laptop sales by almost 60%, while their desktop sales decreased by 29%, as shown in their year-over-year rate. This is mainly because businesses would normally buy desktops. However, with being in the recession, they would have their workers buy laptops because then their work could not only be done at work, but anywhere else they travel, and they're also cheaper. As stated previously, income brackets are also a major player. The higher the income bracket that someone is placed in, the more likely they're going to buy from the industry because the products aren't cheap. Also, marketing plays an effect on it, and marketers will target certain groups. So, for example, they're going to target rather someone younger who's in college than someone who is not.
Like every industry, the hardware industry has been changing to adapt to new goals. And to meet their goals, they have been downsizing from the desktop computer all the way down to tablets. And by doing this within the last 2 decades, you'll see more interface where the user is more involved. You have also seen 3D come to play when it comes to tablets and even smartphones. And these are new issues that have been coming around for the last, let's say, 5 years. When I say about making computing more impersonal, you have 2 major players in the game, Apple and Android. And these 2 interfaces have their own individual markets, which most people, as we know, are users, either your team iPhone or team Android, just based on your Twitter. The innovation of these ideas have led to software such as the cloud, which you can upload like up to 2 to 5 gigabytes of your personal hardware, photos of your family, and even your music on the go. But these come with limitations like every other industry. Some of these limitations to memory. Every device within the hardware industry has a limitation, especially with memory. When you think about desktop, start at with roughly 500. When it comes to memory, then you have the laptop roughly around 250 for a standard computer. Then tablets, 32 and 16, the memory decreases with every generation almost. The biggest strategy right now is how to adapt this and how you get rid of this memory issue. You also, like with such innovations as the cloud. That's like one of the biggest projects right now, how to improve the cloud within this. And with that is mostly is used for tablets and iPhones and stuff, or smartphones, depends on what kind of user you are.
I'm going to be talking about the current and the future markets of the computer hardware industry, and starting with the current market. The global market grew by 6.8% in 2012, and not surprisingly, computers are the strongest portion of the market. However, computers are still unaffordable to many people in the population, especially people with lower incomes. Next is the future market. The market is expected to increase to over $225 billion in revenue by 2016. However, growth is expected to be smaller, decreasing from 6.8% to 4.6%. And one reason is probably the price of computers. Next is demographics. There are more computer purchasers among people with higher incomes and in the age range from 25 to 44, particularly among tablets. And also, people involved in business and education are more likely to purchase computers because of the importance of technology in business and education. However, several important demographics are being left out, namely lower income users and the elderly. Next is segmentation. And there are 3 important market segments. The first is income. Average to higher incomes tend to be more likely to purchase computers, age is next, and college students in particular are a good group for segment marketing because of technology and education. And lastly is careers. People involved in business and education are a good market segment because of the importance of technology and business and education.
As you may know, the market position for the computer hardware industry is very competitive. The industry competes with substitutes within its own industry, along with substitutes from the telecommunications industry and gaming industry. Within the computer hardware industry, tablet computers such as the Kindle Fire and iPad compete with traditional computers such as the desktop PC and laptops. This industry also competes with smartphones like the Apple iPhone and Android phones within the telecommunications industry. The advanced developments such as internet browsing with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox 360 is also becoming a great competition for the computer hardware industry. However, the computer hardware industry still maintains a high market position. They maintain this position because tablets, gaming consoles, and smartphones do not have better processing power or visual quality. This industry also has the greatest amount of storage capacity, therefore being the most reliable. Now I'll be talking about the SWOT analysis for the computer hardware industry. Laptops, desktops, and tablet sales increase because of the high demand for them in society, which makes them easily accessible. You can have access to all of these devices almost everywhere that you go. It also has many brands within the industry, so if one brand does not satisfy you, another brand will. Because of the many brands, there is always updates of the technology, such as new tablets or better PCs that's coming out yearly. Along with the strengths of the computer hardware industry, there are also weaknesses. The biggest weakness for this industry is the prices of the products, and they can be unaffordable to most people. They can also be unsafe because they are easily overheated. You have to be cautious because they will catch fire on some surfaces. The demand that people have on this industry is also a problem. People depend too much on them. They tend to lose focus on written or printed documents because they feel that the storage on the computers is a better way to store things. However, storing things could easily be erased if the computer crashed. Because there are weaknesses within this industry, there are also opportunities. One of the biggest opportunities for this industry is that the computer hardware industry can make payment plans for their products, like the telecommunications industry do with its smartphones, and that this can potentially increase sales. It can also improve ways for the product to become less hazardous because of the overheating. They can also make a product that customers could place their device on to make the surfaces safer. The threats for this industry is that they depend on unforeseen economic issues. An example, if we become in a recession, then the sales for these devices will potentially decrease. Also, many people are leaning more towards smartphones because they are cheaper and can complete most of the same tasks as the computer hardware industry.
Personal computers, known as PCs, is currently the largest sector in the hardware industry and is in everybody's home throughout the continental U.S. The trend for portable computers such as iPads, Kindles, smartphones is continuing to grow as a trend. The cause of this trend is the ability to be mobile, and guess who started this trend? iPad. Between the years 2008 and 2011, the computer hardware market made significant growth and is expected to produce continual growth throughout 2016. Also in 2011, the computer hardware market was $72.3 billion and is expected to increase to $89 billion by the end of 2016. Personal computers computers, also known as PCs, their shipments are expected to fall to a record low of 9.7% this year, and this is the largest market decline on record. According to the IDC, better known as International Data Corporation, mobile devices will continue to explode. Next, we're actually going to talk about hardware growth and comparison for 2013 to 2014. In the Android market, there will be a 7% increase. In the Windows market, there will be a 1% increase. In the iOS Mac market, there will be a 2% increase. And then the RIM, which means Research in Motion, which happens to be the BlackBerry operating system, will see a decline of 0.2%. And other systems will see a decline as well of 9%.
Economic conditions plays a great part in the hardware industry. Hardware sales rise due to economic conditions. Of course, sales will be booming during periods of expansion or growth and declining when growth slows down or stops during a recession, as we will call it. The ability to raise and lower production before a change in economic cycles is important. An economic cycle is the natural fluctuation of the economy between growth and recession. Outsourcing manufacturing to contractors has been tried to reduce exposure to economic cycles. Outsourcing will be giving business processes to a third party. Political factors in the hardware industry will include government regulations like the FCC. The Federal Communications Commission has the right to revoke products not following the verifications of the industry. Legal issues determine where companies operate and whether political stability is guaranteed. Technological factors will be most important in the hardware industry. It's the fastest technological development. Advances due to Moore's Law states that the computer technology will advance every 18 months. The advances will include processing speed, memory capacity, sensors, and pixels. Companies must make sure development is made on trending features. So whatever's trending or whatever the buyer is looking for is what should be advanced upon when creating different items under the hardware industry.